All right, welcome into the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Got a bit of a new time slot from here on in. Closing out the 23-24 hockey seasons. Plenty of meat on the bone still as we just enter the conference final starting this week. But we are 2 to 4 today, Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
We'll still give it one more Leaf Edition hour coming up momentarily as we introduce Craig Berube as MLSC introduces Craig Berube as the 32nd head coach.
And we will literally introduce him today.
We will.
Yes.
He will join us later on in the show.
Yes.
I don't know about you guys, but the 2 p.m. start, it's throwing me off. I'm like, I'm sure you played as a New York Ranger. You played in a lot of matinee affairs where it was probably like 2 p.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m. starts.
11 a.m. one.
Oh, my God.
11 a.m.
That's ridiculous.
I'm feeling just way off. Like we're in here at the wrong time.
Goofy.
There's a new
This
little
was our
TV in
original
here that
time
we're
slot.
looking at. Was it 2 to 4?
think
No, I
so.
thought it was 3 to 5.
I don't know.
So tomorrow, though, tomorrow we'll go down to 1 hour,
Yeah.
which will be 3 Eastern.
And that's it. That's our
That's
spot.
it. Just 1 hour, 3 to 4.
The Leafs hour, c'est la vie.
Gone.
la vie.
That's not the right expression at all, but it's gone.
Say Luffy is definitely not
It's
the
the
right.
way.
Yes.
There
His
will
life?
be, I'm sure, knowing the Leafs the way we've known them all these years,
Yeah.
there will be news trickling in.
Sure.
Right.
You might mention the Leafs in the NHL hour.
Also,
If there's time.
Yeah.
if there's big enough news, boys, you better believe we're doing a full hour. Like Fabro's gonna. Fabro's gonna slap it a full hour onto our show, guarantee. If
Need a
there's big
day's
news,
notice to change the tea time then.
In the meantime, we'll focus on this 1 hour Leaf edition of the hiring of Craig Berube, and we saw the press conference. I don't know whether it was 10 or 15 seconds where Sammy sent me a note saying Kyper's Clippers are all but dead.
They're dead.
Next year.
I
Dead.
did say that. I said that pretty quickly. I
Two-
thought.
two, like a skull. He sends me a skull.
No, you sent me this.
Oh, did I?
You're acting like the young guy.
Yeah, that's right. I sent you a skull.
Yeah, you sent me the skull emoji. You know, that's like when something's very funny, you just send the skull emoji because, like, oh, I'm dead. I laugh so hard, I'm dead.
Oh.
So, yeah, you were looking very youthful in the group chat today, Kippy.
Wow.
Yes, sir. There you go.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So your first impressions of the introduction.
Yeah. Kind of exactly what I expected. Like we're going to beat the drum here that this is a different voice and mentality, and he's an honest, straight shooter, hardworking. This is, I don't think I was surprised by much today. Were you?
No, I did get a bit of a chuckle, though, that over the last 10 or 15 years, there was a sense of trying to get away from the retreads. And I mean, is Craig Berube a retread? He's been around long enough, but he's won a Stanley Cup, but he's safe, he's reliable, right? He's everything that you're not willing to put on the line again, right? So outside the box was Kyle Dubas.
Yeah.
Like extreme outside the box. Who is he? Where is he from? What has he done?
Yeah.
New progressive thinking. I can't wait to learn more about all these things, about analytics and blah, 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 blah. And here we are, 2004, and they can't get out accountability fast enough.
Yeah.
And we're right back to safe, reliable, old school.
I feel like it's kind of reflective of where the pendulum has swung in
Yeah.
hockey, that it was going to be, it's a totally different game now. It's speed, it's possession, it's skill. And then every year in the playoffs, one team went whump, 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 and the other team lost. And they went, hey, the team that forechecks and hits, pretty good.
Yeah, the team with the big mean guys tends to win a
They
lot.
sure win a lot. Screens and ticks and rebounds.
But you're trumpeting something that should be a given, that, someone's going to be honest with you, tell you what they're thinking, and you do well, you get rewarded. You don't do well, you suffer consequences. And it's like, whoa, what a concept.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Tell me more.
But you can't fake what we're talking about here, where it is in the nature of a guy like Berube, from my first impressions of him, or second or third impressions. But same with Rick Tocchet or whatever coach you think fits that mold, where they're just like, this is the way I am. I don't let things go. We talk about it immediately. And I'm not sure that that is the case with a first-time coach who's maybe a little more careful and thoughtful. And is this the right time? And, like, I don't think a guy like Berube cares if it's the right time to have the chat, right? Like,
that's what experience is supposed to do for you.
Exactly.
It's supposed to separate the crap and being decisive.
Yeah.
And, like he's got a million stories either as a assistant coach, or let's go to playing, to assistant coaching, to head coaching, to what's worked, what hasn't. I've chased Stanley Cups. I've won Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy for a guy. Like, this is where, you cannot substitute or go to something else besides experience. Experience is what they are paying for right now. Been there, done that, bought the program.
And it's a little bit of like watching what's happened here at the end of years with guys chasing records and chasing stats and the players not necessarily being held accountable all the time and just being like, we see that as one of the fundamental flaws of this team, and that's not going to happen now. Berube, everything he said is team first, right? It's all about the team.
But which means they're insinuating that we weren't about the team
for
in
sure.
The past, right?
Yes, they are.
There was something wrong.
Yeah.
There was something missing, and that wasn't a given.
No, I feel like Sheldon thought he was going to go as far as his superstars carried him, which is not a ridiculous opinion, and he catered to them a little bit accordingly and tried more this year.
We spent 4 months saying, you got a team A and a team B.
For sure we
did.
did.
It was just so obvious to us.
Yes, you're right.
And it took Marner, Marner got hurt there, and then they kind of started to jumble it up a little bit before they even, they wouldn't even have done.
Found McMahon and you found
But they wouldn't have even done that without the Marner injury. It took them, it forced their hand on that one.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed from the press conference today, and it's an introductory press conference, and I think everybody wants to be very nice, and don't want to push buttons too hard. I don't know if you'll be getting a lot of follow-ups with Craig Berube. Just
follow up to that. No, okay.
No, just
Set of my hands.
He looked dead in the eyes of people. Just him looking out over there, and just he's a tough guy. I would imagine. I'm not going to be on a lot of scrums, boys. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But to push on something, if you're gonna because Keefe, it felt like towards the end people were pushing him on stuff, and he would give these long, detailed answers and all that stuff. It's going to take some stones to go down there, look Berube in the eye, and push him on stuff. No.
We're going to need our Dakota ring a lot less often, I feel like.
Oh, I think we need it way more now.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He's going to say less?
He's going to say less, and we're going to have to tell you why he's saying less.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
We're good at that.
Oh, we're really good at that. We solve nothing at the end of the day, but we're really good at that.
We can wildly speculate.
Okay, let's go to our first Kyper's Clipper of Craig Berube's new career as a head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs with his opening statement.
First, I want to thank Brad, Brendan, ownership for giving the opportunity to be the Maple Leafs head coach. It's a huge honor, obviously. Great franchise, original six. I had the opportunity to play here for a little bit way back in the day, and it's nothing but first class here in a first class organization, and I'm very honored to be the head coach.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's it. Opening statement. That's why I cut it.
That was
20 seconds of him talking.
Which I loved.
But if you're him, too, there's nothing else to say. Thanks.
No, that's not true, because in the past, we've seen some syrup.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I see what you're saying.
I'm
not
just saying
too
that,
flowery.
not too much. Yeah, exactly. Do you remember, I don't know who it was, Ron Wilson brought up his passport to, I don't know. People were questioning whether he was Canadian or American or,
I don't remember that at all, Kippy.
Maybe anyways.
That's questioning my integrity as a...
The only thing I remember about Ron Wilson is after the 2010 Olympics, when he was the head coach, he came back and he's like, well, if that ref had got out of the way, we would have won the game.
Anyways.
My
point is that, it can go a lot of different ways. It wasn't it wasn't up there talking about ad nauseum what a dream job this is. And,
great.
It's just... Yeah, he said what he said, and it was over. And that's the start of what we're going to get out of him moving forward.
I remember in the past, you and I disagreeing on the idea of I loved that guys wanted to come play for Toronto. So Spezza wants to come play here, and Giordano wants to play here, and Thornton wants to play here. The Ontario boys, and it means so much for them. They want to do it for cheap, and that's great. And part of your quibbling with that, I think, was, is it for the right reasons, other than just wanting to come back home? Like,
Comfort.
Is it right? Comfort. Is it really about the cup? Or is this about a cool thing? And I think, to your point, that's not what this is for Craig Berube. It's a win just to be here. It's like, that doesn't seem like it's a win to be here. He just wants a good opportunity.
Listen, whether it was my era, before me, after me, we all come in with this fantasy, right, of what it would be like to win here. And we romance it to death. And then you get to work, and then you look around, and you can see some pitfalls where there's some traps, including off ice, friends, distractions, jealousy. Like, there's a jealousy situation here, unlike any club I've ever been on.
What do you mean? Explain that. Like, jealousy from other players that want to be on the Leafs, or people outside the Leafs? Like, what is it?
Yeah, it's just there's sometimes you can have a teammate that can think outside the box and, again, get distracted, and then where your priorities are. And, this guy's got a commercial. How did he get a commercial? He's right? Like,
how did Ilya Mikheyev get a soup commercial?
Gets a national soup commercial.
Nola Chari's Hawking cookies.
That stuff gets noted by teammates, and it's sometimes, like I said, it's easier to be jealous of a teammate here than probably anywhere else in the league.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting.
My point in all of this is that when you get here, you have one thought of what it's like to be a Toronto Maple Leaf and how great it could be. And then once you start to get to work, and you kind of lose the sizzle, right?
Yeah.
You lose the sexiness of it, and then it becomes work, and then sometimes it becomes a weight or an anchor on you.
Yeah.
And most often that you come in with these rose-colored glasses on of what it's like to be a Toronto Maple Leaf, and then at the end you're either booted out or you can't wait to run out.
Right.
One of the two.
Yeah.
And the whole key is to kind of match, and temper your expectations of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I got a good grasp out of Craig Berube coming in here and saying, listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, it's going to be the greatest job that I ever lived, because I've watched it from afar spit up and chew out a lot of probably good hockey people in the past.
Yeah.
It's a beast. And don't ever lose that sight.
Yeah.
That this being a Maple Leaf is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's funny because you could really see becoming a Leaf or getting that job as a reward in itself. That is the victory. I've already won by getting this job, and you don't want someone who that's the mentality for. It's actually a hard market to win, and people are hard on you when you don't and, get to work rather than saying, patting yourself on the back and popping champagne before anything's happened. So, yeah, I'm with you there, Kip. That makes sense.
Okay, let's go to another Craig Berube where he talks about the core group, because that seemed to be a couple of the questions that came out of the media today is, who's he talked to, or, what's the plan for Tavares and Marner, I heard. So let's go to Craig Berube on the core group.
Clip 2.
Just wondering what you think of the team that just finished this season. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation about change. Mitch Marner, John Tavares. What do you think of what you saw, and what do you think of the core players that you have going forward?
Well, that was one of the attractions. The core player group is great here. I mean, they got some great players here, and that was definitely one of the attractions to come and coach this team. Watching the playoffs this year with them, I thought that, there's already that change kind of going on with how they want to be built and play, and that's Brad bringing that in. And again, talking with Brad and Brendan in the conversations, we're on the same page, and I think that's important. And again, that was one of the big attractions is, we got some real good players here.
Meat and potato Leafs, boys.
Yeah, but, be careful with that,
Well,
right?
I mean, that's what I got out of that clip when I was listening to him talk. He's like, well, I watched them play by far the most boring style of they've ever played, and where they've played the hardest. They won every game, every 2-1, and like Kyper's probably he's looking at me like he wants to punch me with what I'm saying here, but like you be careful what you wish for in that factor, where it's like you go full meat and potatoes. I don't know. I just that stuck out to me. He liked the way they played this playoff series as opposed to others.
You didn't catch a little unintentional Dubas stray there?
Oh, yeah, huge.
Where he's like, you can see they want the way they want to play now, and that's Brad.
Yeah.
You know, kind of making a different thing. To that point, I think of the 4 teams left in playoffs, the best defensive team was like 9th in goals against of the 4 teams left. Like, they weren't great defensive teams. So you still got to score.
Yeah, got to score.
Got to score goals.
Got to shoot in the net.
I think
Not
not only today, but in prior interviews with Craig, I think he goes out of his way to sell that the game has changed.
Yeah.
He mentions it in one of the clips too.
Of course he does. Yeah. And he wants to make it abundantly clear that I'm not just old school, right? I'm not just meat and potatoes. I'm not just beat him in the alley, although he is a beat him in the alley guy.
Yeah.
And when it comes right down to it. But he's not, he understands the kids, 2024, relationships, buying in, all of that.
Yeah. I also think it helps that the kids in Toronto are not kids.
And he can't turn Matthews into, he can bring the total down for Matthews, but it can't be looking like he's taking anything away from him.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Matthews scores 45 or 50 goals next year and he turns a 70 scorer into a 45 or 50 goal scorer, it's okay as long as it doesn't look like he's taken anything away from him. Like if it's a conscious decision, if it's Matthews going to spread the wealth a little bit,
and unity, chemistry,
but having him look like he's like going, no, we're not gambling 30 chances.
Yeah. I just don't know that there's a way to change Matthews anyway. Like in terms of
he scored 70 goals. He was nominated for the Selke.
Right.
He scored 69.
I don't know what you would do because he's not a cheat behind the opposing D, get breakaways kind of guy. He's not a power play
McDavid
merchant.
went from 65 to 40 plus.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
You might say he passed the puck more if that's, and maybe that's it, but I don't think that would be encouraging to him
Hyman
to produce
went
less offense in favor of defense.
But Hyman's offense went up.
Right.
Right?
So I don't think that this, though, it would be, all right, we need you to be better defensively, and that's going to take away from your offense. It's maybe we want you to be different offensively, and that could be.
And we saw it once Marner went out, that he struggled for maybe 2 or 3 games after Marner went out, and then he played some of the best hockey of his career once he figured out how to pass the puck more, and he was remember that stretch where he was leading. He was high in the league in slot passes and doing all this stuff, playing with those guys. Mm-hmm. So he found a little something there. And if you see more of that next year, you see the assist total go up.
Yeah.
But the last thing I'm worried about is his defensive side of the puck. He's an elite defensive player.
Yeah, I don't think it's about, we need you back in your own end more.
Even more. No. But I like the passing from him at the end of the year. I really did.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear the clip on what he wants the Leafs to look
Yes.
like? Because I think that's related to this. Clip 7, if we could.
Competitive, we don't want to get outworked ever. We want to be highly competitive every night, and it's all about the team for me. That's one of the things I really focus on, and that's part of building a team. Everybody's important on the team. Everybody's got to be used on the team, and they all have jobs and roles on the team, and that's a real important aspect for me. We want to play a north game. We want to play fast. We want to be a heavy team. When I talk about heaviness, it's not, running guys through boards and fighting and all that stuff. Listen, the game's changed, but you still have to be strong on pucks. You got to win puck battles. Those are priorities for me, and just playing predictable and north, and playing as fast as we can. Structure is huge, and we got to have structure in all 3 zones, and that's going to be a priority.
Yeah, I mean the game has changed, but the team thing is definitely a hobby horse of his.
I think the
Everyone's
Leafs.
gotta be
I
important.
think the Leafs have a better chance, much better chance to look like this, like a team in October, November, and then have that same look in April and May.
Well, and
that's where Sheldon was just couldn't do it.
If they get anything out of this Berube thing in terms of playoff success, it would be accountability in October, November, so you win more there, so you finish first in the division, so you draw a team that limps into playoffs. Like, that to me is how you look at some of the teams that moved on in the West or whatever. I don't think they were much better than the Leafs. But it's like
you get Washington.
Yeah,
you get the Islanders. You get some. I'm sorry, Barney, but you get the Islanders.
You get Nashville. You get someone that is like, okay, you should beat that team. And the Leafs haven't given themselves enough opportunities to make a tap and putt rather than having to make a 20-footer.
Boston, Tampa.
Will next year, regardless of the changes, will it get to the point ever where Craig Berube is thinking to himself, if not saying in the public, we're too soft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think that's going to happen.
Well, will it though? Like,
that's how he plays.
Buddy,
if he holds people accountable and he's got good relationships, then he should be able to nip it in the bud before he gets to a microphone to call his team soft, Sammy.
Okay. Yeah. We have a clip on that. Clip 8.
All right. On
holding players accountable.
To hold players accountable and for players to understand the accountability, you have to form a partnership throughout. I think it starts in the summertime, getting to know these players, them getting to understand what I'm all about and how I'm going to coach and how I'm going to coach each individual and the team. And, so then when you have to hold a player accountable for whatever, and it could be ice time, it could be whatever the situation is, they understand it more. And communication is huge. And I think one of my strengths is I'm a great communicator with my players. They know where they stand. I'm going to tell them when they're playing well. I'm going to tell them when they're not playing well. I'm going to tell them if things that need to be improved upon. There's all types of things. So accountability is accepted almost by your players when you have that partnership.
Yeah, the accountability thing comes down to just being direct and not letting things fester. I think the earlier you address things, the better.
These guys are just like looking forward to their summer, and they're just like, oh, crap.
Good.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But they're just like, oh, crap. I'm going to be talking to Berube a lot this summer, maybe a little less time out on the golf course, actually talking to the coach and having him saying what he expects from you and all this stuff. Like, it's good. Yeah. But I'm just thinking from a player's perspective, that's kind of what I want. How are they feeling? Like, are they dreading or are they excited?
Nervous.
Yeah.
Dread?
I think it's good to have to go reprove yourself to someone.
Uncomfortable.
Okay.
Right? And I don't know if it was said or not today, but like the teams that end up winning, going to a Final Four, final or Stanley Cup are the teams who are best equipped to look comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And the Leafs have never gotten there yet in the last 10 years where they're just comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the 82 games are for, is to start playing that way. So it's okay to make them uncomfortable or not feel relaxed in November, December, January. And that's what these types of coaches like Craig Berube do, is that if you've lost 3 in a row or 4 in a row, or maybe you're even winning games that you shouldn't win, it gets identified. And it's like, who are you fooling? This won't work in April.
Yeah.
So wipe the smile off your face.
Yeah.
Jeremy Rutherford had a good piece today. He covered him for years and talked about basically what you're talking about, how immediately the feedback is, and even when it's going good, you still say, hey, but I don't like it from you, and how after practice he's going around and talking to everyone. It's interesting to hear himself call himself a great communicator, because that's obviously something he values, and he already did talk to some of the guys on the team. It sounds like he's reached out.
We have a clip on that if you want to play that.
Clip 3.
Clip 3, please.
Yeah, I've made contact with most of the team, to be honest with you. On the phone, met some guys in person here too, but I've talked to pretty much everybody on the team already. It's been great support. I'm looking forward to working with these guys.
That's
all
good.
right.
Yeah, so he's already done some due diligence.
Most?
That's so he got hired Friday.
Didn't call Samson off.
He got hired Friday.
Yeah. Oh, he did, yeah.
2 or 3 days of calls, or maybe bumping into a few guys at the rink. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, would they be not to be this guy, but are they at the rink
No.
over the long weekend?
Maybe getting stuff out of their locker. I don't know.
Maybe they had to pick up the flip-flops and head up to the
you'd
cottage.
be surprised some of the players that still stick around or need to get a workout in, or
Rehab is a big thing too. Yeah.
just hopefully someone will notice me.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Like,
yeah,
for sure.
Oh.
I'm here in May.
I know
long
the
weekend.
season just ended, Craig, but
Hey.
I was doing squats since the season ended.
Well, yeah, I guess if you know the new coaches hanging around, you're just like, I don't know if you heard me. I was doing over 1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything? I think they were mentioned about changing his staff or the assistant coaches. No decisions on any of them right now.
Yeah, they didn't. They asked him. He didn't give him anything, so I didn't even put the clip in there. He just didn't. He said no info really on it.
The one that does catch my eye, I know we got to do a break at some point,
Yeah.
but on using the media, that to me is
Free
fascinating.
Boy asked him like about how it's a the temperature.
Yeah.
And
Do you want to
shows
play it
like
after
ours-
a break?
Yeah, let's hit a break. We'll come back. We
Okay.
still got a ton of clips from Tree, and a couple from Shanny too. So we'll play.
All
those.
right, we'll work through the rest of the presser.
All right, plenty more to still dissect on the new head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Craig Berube, after these words. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, and Sam McKee. Leaf edition of the Real Kipper and Bourne Show as the Toronto Maple Leafs introduce Craig Berube as their 32nd head coach for your Sammy Toronto Maple Leafs.
So I sent out a tweet during our show on Friday about how you're feeling about Berube or whatever. And I've seen a little bit of this bubbling up on, X and people sending stuff to me. And I saw Biz talking about this. Like, looking with Berube now, and we've been talking about how much different he is than Keefe. And like how huge accountability, like all this stuff. And like, I hate saying that Keefe never held anyone accountable. It's like you don't really know what he was like behind the scenes. I hate saying that he had no accountability.
He backpedaled.
I know.
Comments.
I know.
And that's
good
where
enough.
it all
That's
started.
So people are saying, like, do you think they should maybe bring back the core four under Berube? Like, would it look different?
my God.
But like, I don't think that.
Okay.
But that thought has been out there, and I think that's starting to bubble up a little bit. Like, do you think Berube is different enough that would make a big enough difference, or you have to change it?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
And I'm not dismissing the
Thank
question.
you.
But
Dismiss away?
let me speak on behalf of Leafs Nation
Yes.
when I say kill me.
Okay. I agree. I completely agree, but it's a question I want to ask. Kipper?
I will maintain this like I have consistently this whole time, that it's less about how you feel and just the economics of what it means to your salary cap as early as next year or moving forward. And it just doesn't make any sense.
You can't handle the truth.
And is there a world where, Mitch Marner scores 120 points, you lose Tavares' $11 million, you add that to Mitch Marner to make 12 and a half, 13. How's everybody feeling then?
Not great.
Not great, I don't think.
Not even with 120 points.
120 points is great, for sure. I would like that a lot.
But does that mean a Stanley Cup final?
No, Kip, I am speaking kind of half tongue in cheek. Like, that's great. That would be, you have 3 stars. Would love to hang on to everyone. This next year really is the challenge, right? Like, you can't just kind of be in this waiting mode for another year. Next year, we'll get them in 25, 26. Like, it's hard for me to punt on a year to get where you're talking about. Because I like that idea. I would like for Mitch Marner to stay as a member of the Leafs, and you have 3 great offensive players and all that. It's really hard to make it work. And when you look at playoffs, obviously that has a big effect.
Saying that, I expect a very busy summer for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I expect a vastly different look to the roster
Okay.
by September, October.
Do you think the Marner and Tavares have been approached yet about their contract?
No.
No.
There's no time. And Brad Treliving
He laid it
alluded
out.
to that.
He's like, I've been so busy with
And
this.
it was very, very clear today that the coaching file has taken up all the time and attention. And now we'll address things internally. So it will come around fairly quickly on where do we go from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is interesting now on a number of occasions with the likes of Brendan Shanahan and Brad Treliving on a podium where specifically the names Marner and Tavares have come up, and they have indicated zilch that they want him back.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
There's no, like, of course we want them.
Where has there been a 100-point guy in the past where in their prime of their career where it's like, listen, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk, and we're going to do everything we can. We like him here. He likes it here. We'll find a way.
And they've had multiple times to do it.
Nada.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Not even an inclination that they
want.
They're
actually so right about that.
They want either of these guys back, or he's our captain and he's our leader. He's over in Prague leading our nation and doing a heck of a job, and he's going to come back and do nothing.
But you know what, Kip? For years here, the criticism was the second the failure happens, they rush out there to say, it's okay, boys, it's okay. Don't be nervous. We wouldn't want you to be uncomfortable for 20 minutes. So that's fine.
No, me too. I'm fine with it.
Feel uncomfortable. To your point about and if they decide that they do want to keep him, it's still an option. Maybe it risks pissing him off.
But
I don't think you should care.
The one thing that is a little different is that they're not entirely in the driver's seat with no move clauses.
They're not at all.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not for them to decide if he stays. At the end of the day, it has to be Mitch Marner or Tavares if they want to stay and be in a place where they kind of know they're not wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So where is that game? Where's that line? Where's that game of chicken right now?
Yeah. I think, we were talking about being direct here, and this is for Berube, and I'm sure Treliving it's going to have to be the same thing where it is direct and just says, what do you want to do here? We'd like to see what's out there. And
see, I disagree with that in terms of I don't think that you go to Mitch Marner or Tavares. You got to go do your homework first.
Yeah, and say
bring them something, as opposed to going to them first, then trying to find something.
First of all, everything, the point's moot until you talk to another club and you even can come to some sort of agreement on what a structure of a Mitch Marner trade would look like.
Yeah.
Like, you're not wasting anyone's time if you can't sit there and go, okay, I want that guy and I want a pick and I want this.
Yeah.
And you need to go and haggle and negotiate. And I don't know, it could take a week, it could take July, it could take August, it could take March.
Yeah.
We don't know. But you need to come to terms on what a potential deal could be. And then if you have any kind of meeting of the minds, then one of the last things is to go back to Mitch Marner and his agent and say, there's an opportunity. Would you be interested in?
Mm-hmm. You saw Nashville open up some money with the trade for Ryan McDonough today.
So do they hold
to Tampa?
So what did McDonough have left on his deal? 2 years?
2 years
at 6.5.
Yeah.
And does Nashville hold?
Nothing.
All
the money moved. They do have to be wary of some Matt Duchene buyout money that they're going to get hit with. So that was certainly part of it. I had a guy write me exiled Usher on Twitter. It says, all right, here's my opening offer. Leafs choice of Ryan Pulock or Adam Pelech, plus Varlamov and a second-round pick. Full retention for Varley for Marner.
No.
Who do you want? No?
Thank you.
You don't want either of those guys? No.
How about no?
If that's the trade, just run it back.
Yeah. I do think there's a world where you just go out and pursue all these offers and you keep going, and then you're stuck.
I mean, the goalie conversation, do you want to play? They got asked about the goaltending today. Do you want to play it?
Sure.
Clip 10 from Berube.
Craig, virtually every coach I've ever spoken to says you're only as good as your goaltending. That said, who is and what is your goaltending?
Well, that's something that Brad, myself, Brendan are going to discuss, and we're going to look at all areas. And, that's That's not for today.
Confident in it?
Yeah, but again, like I said, that's not for today to discuss. That's discussions that we're going to have here going forward, and hopefully we'll figure that out soon.
I think just to piggyback on that, Steve, obviously as part of this process, you go through roster, of what we've got right now. Craig giving me his thoughts, me giving him my thoughts. But, today's day one of, we're going through the process of how we build a team. We're going to start digging in today from everything from, obviously we have a staff to look at, and Craig will have those discussions with guys that are here and figure out where we go from there. And then most importantly, dig right into our roster and start get to work on that.
So double question to the coach about goaltending.
Yes, I don't know who my goalies are yet. If I'm the coach.
That's not for today.
Wow, great drop right there.
The number one priority is the net and the blue line for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
For sure.
So,
no question.
What do they have on the cap coming up, right? $20 million? Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Just under.
2018, 17.
18.53.
18.53 is money that they have to spend. And obviously, they got to fill it with a number of roles, but it gives you a chance now to go to unrestricted free agency.
Yeah.
Right? And go get a defenseman. And there's some big names out there that are available.
Can I tell you?
Brandon Montour seems to be at the top of everyone's list.
Here's an interesting stat to go with that. Of the 16 playoffs teams, in terms of points per game from your defense, the Leafs finished 16th. 1.29 points per game from their defense right now. The Oilers are first with 3 points per game from their defense, and they're going to the conference finals. Vancouver was up there. Carolina,
Bouchard's.
Florida, Dallas, top teams.
Bouchard's at another level right now. That's what's he got? 20 points.
Yeah,
like it's scary.
4 goals, almost 5.
Right?
I guess that's tipped.
That's snapper. Oh, was it Hyman tipped it?
I think so.
The
Yeah.
snapper.
But that's
crossbody.
That's all world numbers.
And not making mistakes really defensively. Like he
We'll get into the Oilers for sure in the second hour, but
here's who's under contract next year for the Leafs for their defense: Morgan Riley, Jake McCabe, Simone Benoit, Connor Timmins, and Cade Weber.
No, that's it.
That's who's under contract.
Yeah. So basically,
good start.
You got it's a good start. It's half. You got 3 guys.
Yeah, 3 guys.
And then you got nothing after that. Liljegren's
he's an RFA.
An RFA. Mm-hmm. What do you do with him? Right?
Drive him to the airport.
Okay.
Well,
so
no, you're better
you
off
got
paying
3 defensemen. You got to fill.
They're gonna have Liljegren. He's not.
Oh,
right?
you can get rid of him though. I'm saying that you can.
Yeah.
You
could, if that's the
rid of
decision you make. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna have a good couple years.
I've had enough.
Okay.
Get a bucket of pucks.
Like if you trade him away,
Well, that's the thing. You get nothing.
Are you terrified
that?
Are you terrified he's going to become something great that you lose him? Because I am not. That's that's the
you 3D.
I have some reservations that he's
You have 3 defensemen.
37-point guy.
Okay.
3
on
defensemen.
PB2.
Now, out of the 18-4, did you say 18-3?
18-5.
Do you want a $6.5 million goalie, or you want another 3-2 Samsonov?
I do
think
that this is a huge issue with this era of Leafs hockey, and has always been a Leafs era where you keep going with these half measures for your goaltending, and it's like, oh well, if
you keep pointing at the one team who gets lucky and does it, rather than saying, hey, it's Shesterkin, Ottinger, Bobrovsky, and
they've been goalied every single year.
Could we do that one year maybe? Is that something that the Leafs could look at? I don't know. I just, there's Saros out there, Markstrom out there. Go get a real guy.
I mean,
I'm with you.
Yeah, I just don't trust that an older guy. I don't trust he's definitely going to be better. Is Saros' track record long enough? Do you think Markstrom's going to fall off? I don't know. It makes me a little nervous. That's all.
I just worry about you're like, oh, you get Wall's your starter, and then you get the 1B guy, and then
that's not happening.
After game 2, Wall's like, oh, my back's hurt again,
and they're not going in October with the feeling that they're going to take the year to build Wall up as a number one.
So Saros, it's his last year before his contract expires, and you're going to
$5 million.
If he's good, he's going to cost you 10 or 9.5 or something. Does Markstrom have 2 years left at 6 and change?
I think you're right.
So to me, that holds more appeal. Like maybe you can get, if you're talking about that 6 and whatever number, 2 years commitment, I'm a little more on board with that. But you just goaltending's so strange.
Love Saros.
Yeah,
Saros is a career .917.
He's awesome. He's awesome. And what's he, 30?
So
So then you're going to have to give him a big contract.
He's 29, Saros. Saros is 29. Yeah, give him a big contract. Because then you have a good goalie for a long time. Like they've just, think of the guys that they've tried to win playoff series with.
Sam, he's 5'11". Is he going to be good if he slows down a little? Like,
I don't know.
Markstrom does have this year and next at 6. Okay, I'd do Markstrom.
You would?
Well, it depends right now. Now we're talking about trading what, Marner to the Flames?
Let's just say that you've signed Montour.
Yeah.
And you found a way to get a $6.5 million goalie. You're 14 out of 18, and that's only 2 bodies to replace how many? 5?
A lot of spots.
TJ.
No, they have like 12 UFAs.
12 UFAs?
They do.
That frees up $18.5 million? That's a lot of bodies that you got to go back, and you haven't figured out what you're going to do with Max Domi. You haven't figured out Bertuzzi.
Yeah.
You're just going to replace them with 850,000 Cowans?
UFAs are Labushkin, Giordano, Edmondson, Brody, Liljegren's an RFA, Domi, Bertuzzi, Robertson's an RFA, Gregor's an RFA, Dewar's an RFA.
You want to sign Edmondson back with his old head coach, Berube?
I do. Yeah, I do.
At $4 million?
Oh, no. No.
How much there? How much there, genius?
Less than that.
Yeah, he's not taking a pay cut.
It is the fantasy of like, I'd like to have that player for less than he makes.
He's not. I don't think he's taking a pay cut.
He's going to make 4.
What's he at now?
3.5.
I don't think it's much of a haircut. You think he's going to take $3 million?
Maybe.
He's 30,
yeah.
he's 20. How old is he? 30? He's still young.
Yeah, but he never plays 70 games.
I hear that. That I hear.
44, 61, 55, 68, 64. I'll give you 3/4 of a season pay because you're a $5 million guy.
You just finished a 4-year, $3.5 million per year contract.
So you want to give him 3.5 for another 3 years?
Sure. I'm in. I loved him in playoffs. Loved him. And he's only 30.
Yeah, sure. Yep, we can do that.
Okay.
Yep.
I think someone's going to give him the 4th or 5th year out there because that's how desperate people are for defense and a guy with his experience. And they'll take their chances on health.
Yeah,
that's how desperate it is. There's so many teams out there, and there's only a handful of these type of guys. So if you can't,
so all the money's gone. Then
you can't beg and choose here.
So you have a good goalie, Montour at Edmonton, and then no more money.
Well,
so that's why
you're trying to move the big money.
And that's why. Yeah. Do you get to just move Marner, or if you move Marner and Tavares in there?
God, you're rich.
That changes the whole look.
And you have 180 less points on your team.
Yeah. Moving Marner should scare the bloody hell
out of everyone. I wake up every day and it's one of the first thoughts that cross my mind.
Happen.
Yeah.
But it should scare people.
Absolutely.
Do we want to hear Berube on the playoff failures and his thoughts of what?
Well, we kind of teed up Elliot Friedman's question.
Oh yeah, about using the media. So yeah, let's play that. It's clip 9, please, Derek.
Yeah, and I don't really bring that up publicly very often. I could think of a couple times I have done that, but for the most part, it's all internal. It's with my players, management. But I keep that stuff internal for the most part.
So there you go.
Yeah, you should just say, I'm going to apologize to the Real Kyper and Bourne show right now.
Yeah.
That's not for today.
What are we going to do?
Him today
I'm giving them nothing.
So did you guys want to hear the clip of, because it's kind of funny, we're getting towards the end of our hour, of Shanny talking about fighting Berube?
Yeah,
it's a funny story. I think it's clip 1, Derek, from Shanahan. You can play it.
Yeah, I've seen that video. And I remember, look, I've probably had hundreds of fights in the NHL. Craig probably had more than 200 fights in the NHL. I remember that one in particular. I think I was around 19. When I came in as an 18-year-old, I was playing in the bottom six and playing a lot against Craig. And then about halfway through my second year, I got put on the first line and doing really well on the first line. And Craig came up to me at the end of a game and said, well, I guess you're not going to fight us guys anymore. And I said, let's go. And at the end of the fight, I said, you know what? He might have had it right. Maybe I should stop doing that.
It's such a triumphant story till he got his face filled in.
The fight is bad.
Yeah, Berube.
Berube filled him in.
It's
bad.
I'm interested to see how Berube has an influence on a guy like Matthew Nyes, who I think has that type of range where, he's not going to be Brendan Shanahan, Hall of Famer, 600 goals, but he has that ability to be a high-end player and still bring a level of physicality, and on occasion has shown that he could actually drop the gloves.
Yeah.
The question is, what's the gap between some nights looking like the Incredible Hulk or looking like, I don't know, what's his name? Bannister?
Oh, Drew Bannister? Is
Drew
that
Bannister?
no?
That's a coach. That's a coach.
Bruce Bannister.
Isn't Drew Bannister the guy who replaced him?
He's wearing a white coat in the lab, waiting to be, upset.
Drew Bannister.
Yeah,
Bunch of hockey dumbos.
It is going to be. I agree with that. I think you stand the
Bruce
best.
Banner.
Yeah.
Not Bannister.
Right. Yeah.
I think you stand your best chance of getting the most out of guys, and even a guy like Bobby McMahon, and guys farther down the lineup, and it's like, hold them accountable to not try to be Mitch Marner if it is in the absence of Mitch Marner, not to be a dangly type and say, hey, we need you in straight lines. You can still make plays, but I think Leafs fans are going to like the blue collar nature of Berube and be on board with most of the stuff.
Do Leaf fans like blue collar stuff? I don't know.
Oh God, they're dying.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, like I said on our last show on Friday, and I'll say it again. I was excited beforehand, watched his press conference. Got to tell you, like the cut of his jib, I was really fired up with hearing a lot of the stuff he said.
Yeah.
Straight shooter. Just bad for Kyper's Clippers. I'm back.
Still, it's good for us.
I still find it quite interesting. One of the most talented players that he had in St. Louis, Kyper, had the feeling that 1,000-pound weight fell off his shoulders when Berube got fired.
Yeah, but I could see Berube using that as a learning experience and handling a talented kid like him. But also, he got a lot out of Kyper and Thomas. I think those players became good players under his tutelage. So, yeah, maybe it's okay to make them feel
the playoffs a couple times.
Well, the team stunk.
I think the 1,000-pound weight. There's a couple guys who could use that on their shoulders here. So it's fine.
A couple of pounds.
Give me one.
No, I don't want to do it.
Willie?
Yeah. Mitch Marner?
No,
well,
not Mitch.
I was going to say Marner.
Listen,
Not
Mitch is a Selke finalist.
Okay? Yeah, guess who else is? Austin Matthews.
He's got no problem with a 200-foot game of Mitch. Whether or not you
like
sit there and says he shows up.
You think he wouldn't hold accountable for the playoff performances?
Yeah.
But you take a look around what's going on. There's nights Connor McDavid doesn't look like he's shown up. That's how tough it is to score 5-on-5 this time of year.
Free passes. No accountability on this show.
Yeah.
Plenty.
Yeah. Connor McDavid had 3 primary assists in a crucial Game 6 victory that led them to Game 7. Like, he's very good.
Listen.
Okay.
We'll see what happens in the conference final.
Yes, we will.
All right, we'll get into that.
Yes.
On our next hour as we go national. Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Don't go away. We're just getting started. Welcome into the National Hour of the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. I'm Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, David Sisboomba. Oh, it's Jake today. Who's Jake?
Jake?
The snake?
It was I can't keep track up there.
Hi, Jake. Welcome
Jake.
aboard, buddy.
And Jake Schultz, I think is his last name. Jake Schultz.
Jam-packed this hour as we're going to get right into the Edmonton Oiler win last night over the Vancouver Canucks with Jason Gregor, host of the Jason Gregor Show on Sportsnet. 14:40 in Edmonton. In the meantime, a friendly reminder, this hour Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. And also in about 40 minutes, head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, newly minted.
Yeah.
Craig Berube will also join us as well. But in the meantime, no real surprise last night for both of you before we get it to Jason?
Well, I mean, you go to Game 7. I don't think there's any definite outcome. So it ended up the way I thought it would in the end, but Vancouver certainly gave a much better push than I thought they would.
I feel for the Vancouver fans because that team just losing Besser.
That's
just wasn't.
tough way to go
It
out.
just wasn't the way they'd played the whole playoffs. Tough.
All right, let's welcome him in. Jason Gregor, 1440 in Edmonton, host of the Jason Gregor Show. Nobody cares in Edmonton about Vancouver, like Sammy's alluded to. Right, Jason?
Well, maybe not anymore. I think they cared about him for a short time. I will say Oilers fans were very classy when the Brock Besser news came about. They kind of put aside the rivalry to said, hey, blood clots are pretty serious, so you wish him well.
Well, however it happens, you just want to get through. So we'll ask you for your take on Game 7. Maybe a little bit more exciting at the end than it should have been, considering what seemed like it might just be a sleepy way through for a win for the Oilers.
Well, the Oilers had the game in control until Ryan McLeod decided to just not shoot the puck.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm sorry. Like that changed the whole game. Like if you look at it, Vancouver had in that third period, and you knew they were going to come. They're desperate, so they get a power play. They had 2 shots, nothing serious. They didn't have a shot on goal 5-on-5. Now, they'd missed some shots, and Edmonton had blocked them. And then on a simple dump in, Skinner comes out, plays it, puts it up to Desharnais, who puts it right on McLeod's tape. He has time. All he's got to do is flip it out, and he just missed it. And both you guys played. Like, mistakes are going to happen in a game, but when a coach benches you for one mistake, it's rarely one mistake. I think is kind of cumulative for McLeod. I don't think they've liked his competitiveness in the series, and that play is just, it's inexcusable at that time of the game, and it gave Vancouver life, and made the last 8.5 minutes of that game much more stressful than it probably should have been, because up until that point, Vancouver had really generated nothing.
And that, to me, is a huge story on a team where we, at times during the regular season, Jason, questioned whether or not they'd ever have the ability to hold any team at a handful of shots for a good chunk of a hockey game. But that's exactly what happened. And, we'll get into Evan Bouchard's historic offense ability here and the numbers that he's putting up. But even for a guy like that to show the ability to shut down teams, did anybody really see that, especially last night coming into a Game 7?
Well, if you look at the Oilers, actually, since Chris Knobloch's come in, Edmonton has been like a top 5 team in high danger chances against. Everybody looks at Edmonton and think of Draisaitl, McDavid, and rightfully so. And Zach Hyman's a 50-goal scorer, and Evan Bouchard is an 80-point defenseman. But Edmonton overall has actually pretty good. If you look at Sportlogic's numbers, Edmonton is number 1 in high danger chances against in the NHL playoffs. And they're number 1 in expected goals against. The problem is they still, and if you had a ranking for number 1 in gift goals, I'm pretty sure they'd be there too. And that, to me, has always been their issue. They'll play well for long stretches, and then boom, it's like you have the game completely in control, and there's no reason to make that giveaway. Stuart Skinner, and early in the series, let in some goals that really had no business going in, and I call those gift goals. And if Edmonton, if they can reduce those, they'll have a really good chance. But, against Dallas, who's a really deep team, I don't know if you can get away with giving away games like Edmonton did in this series to Vancouver. It never should have gone 7 games. Edmonton was the better team by far outside of Game 5. Game 5, the Canucks full marks for their win. But that, to me, is going to be the question mark moving forward, guys, is can Edmonton eliminate their self-destructive mode that always seems to rear its ugly head?
Yeah, that's I am curious, before moving on, looking ahead for the Oilers, to talk a little bit about why that series was closer than someone like me expected. I thought that this was going to be, I forget if I said 5 or 6 games, but I thought that they were heavily outclassed. Was it just not getting the goals from the depth, too much using McDavid and Draisaitl? What to you was the main cause? Maybe the goaltending is sort of assumed, but were there other things to diagnose and say, okay, we can patch this for the next round?
Well, you'd like some production from your third line, sure, but realistically, Edmonton scored enough goals to win the series. Like game 3, I felt like their 5-on-5 scoring early in the series wasn't good enough. I don't think they generated enough traffic in front of Shilovs, and that changed in game 6. And then, they scored a few more 5-on-5 goals in game 7. And then other guys started to chip in. But really, you know what, blowing a lead, like all 3 games they lost, they had a lead. Right, they were up 4-1 in game 1 with 26 minutes left. Yeah. You shouldn't lose that game. And then they lose game 3 by outshooting them 45-18. And Skinner had allowed 4 goals on 15 shots in 40 minutes, and then got pulled. So honestly, I think it was that really depth scoring's nice, but it's at times I think it's a little bit overrated. I've been looking up teams who win, and not surprisingly, guys, it's the teams, your best players are your best players. It's nice to get a key goal from a depth guy, and Cody Cece's suddenly Mr. Game 7 for the Edmonton Oilers. 2 goals in consecutive Game 7s for him, both the opening goals of the game. So, those are nice, but ultimately I think you're going to win and lose with your best players, and that's what the Oilers did here at the end. Their best guys were great when it mattered most. And, they'll need to be good against Dallas. Like, no doubt in my mind, Dallas is a much tougher opponent than they faced in the first 2 rounds.
We're talking to Jason Gregor, host of the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440 in Edmonton. So you just mentioned it, the fact that this did go 7 games. What's left out of the Edmonton Oilers to push against a Dallas Star team that's sitting at home waiting and resting?
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting because if you actually look at this series and you look at Dallas has actually played 1 more game than Edmonton because they played 7-6, right? Oilers had their break earlier with winning in 5 and had a week off. So, yeah, you know what? They only have 2 days between games. But look at Dallas's, I think it's kind of been underreported. Dallas has basically played this whole playoffs with 5 defensemen, right? You look at Miro Heiskanen has played 311 minutes right now. Bouchard, who leads the Oilers, he would be 6th on Dallas in time on ice amongst defensemen. 6th, right? So they've gone with 5 guys. They brought in Petrovic for 1 game, but, him and Nils Lundqvist barely play. Hakanpää is obviously their number 6 guy, and I know he skated, but I don't think, by the sounds of it, he's not ready for at least the first 2 games of this series. So I don't know if fatigue's going to be much of a factor, to be honest. I'm really interested in the matchup here. We know that Lundell and Tanev, they like to use those 2 guys against, the top line, Jack Eichel, Nathan McKinnon. But Edmonton has McDavid's line, but then on their second line, they have the NHL's playoff leading scorer in Leon Draisaitl. And no offense to Casey Middlestad or Vegas's second line center, they don't hold a candle to Draisaitl. So how are they going to manipulate their defense pairings as Tanev, who only played 52% of McKinnon's minutes 5-on-5, how much of that matchup is going to be? Because I think that's what it's going to come down to. Can Dallas stop Edmonton's top gunners? And can Edmonton just get consistent goaltending? They don't need great goaltending. They just need consistent goaltending.
Yeah. One thing that caught my eye is the Oilers in points per game from their defensemen are first in the postseason, not surprisingly, when you have Evan Bouchard getting 20 points. But tell us a little bit about the D pairs, because early in the series, it was a bit of a story that maybe Nurse and Cece were having some struggles. It seems like they kind of figured things out. Bouchard and Ekholm obviously do what they do. I guess very impressed by Bouchard's numbers. You probably weren't surprised by that, I'm guessing?
Well, I'm surprised he got 20 points. Like, Bouchard's good offensively. And not only 20 points, guys, like 5 goals in a series for a defenseman. And, I guess 4 because they changed that goal to Hyman last night. But 4 goals, all 5-on-5, so, not on the power play. And Bouchard's defensive game has really improved for me. Like, he's a really smart player. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to compare him at all to the player, but he defends similar to how guys like Lidstrom and Niedermeyer, they're not physical. They're not Chris Pronger. They're not Stevens. They're not Shea Weber. They're not beating the hell out of you. That's not how he defends. He defends more with his brain and with sticks and playing the angles. And, really the only error he made in this whole series was in game 5 where he just, mishandled the puck, which is a bread and butter. So it wasn't even a bad read or losing a battle. And I think Bouchard's really played well, but I give Paul Coffey credit. He switched the D pairs after game 4. He put Cece with Kulak, and then he put Nurse with Desharnais. And Cody Cece in game 5, 6, and 7 wasn't on the ice for a goal against 5-on-5. He scored obviously the goal in game 7. And he played the second most minutes 5-on-5 of any Oilers defenseman after Bouchard. So, the pairing switch seemed to have worked for Edmonton. They got a little bit different matchups. Now, granted, it's not like Vancouver is a really dangerous offensive team. They didn't really challenge guys. And I'm sorry, you can't win in the playoffs playing that way. I know that Besser got obviously the blood clot, and that doesn't help. But and Elias Pettersson was on a milk carton somewhere, missing in action. But I just don't think you can win in the playoffs when you don't attack in today's NHL. And I think Edmonton, we'll see now, because Dallas, they come at you in waves. They got 3 lines that can score, not to the level of Edmonton, but they got 3 balanced scoring lines.
So, Jason, is that it? Just maybe reshuffle the deck with the pairs for Bouchard, or did he need a coaching change, or where does it truly matter that, or where was it the trigger point on going to another level for this guy?
Well, last year it started, I think, and it helped. He's you guys, I think sometimes a lot of people overlook having an experienced partner. It started with Duncan Keith in 2022, right? And Bouchard raved about all the little tips that Keith would give him in games that most coaches just can't give you at that point, right? And some can never give you that point. Like, Keith's a Hall of Famer. He understands the position. And then they brought in Matthias Ekholm, and, he kind of calms down. And Bouchard just keeps developing. It's only his 3rd full season, and he's a great offensive player. He's actually a very smart player, and he's improved his just, kind of urgency at times, right? That guy can sit back like he's in a rocking chair back there. He'll stick handle through 3 guys, and he never panics, which is a great thing to have. But sometimes you want him to be more urgent. But I really think when Paul Coffey came in, he changed the entire makeup of the blue line. Like, Bouchard, what's his skill set? Moving the puck. And he was always good at it. But he made Vincent Desharnais, Cody Ceci, Darnell Nurse, and said, every one of those guys, we're not just dumping the puck out anymore. Right, we're looking to make plays. And he actually really ripped his team. I think it was in game 5 where his defense was flipping the puck up the ice. He's like, that's not how we play. We make plays. And it really plays into Bouchard's game. And obviously, I think learning from a guy like Coffey, who's a Hall of Famer, who probably gets underrated for his acumen of understanding the position of defense. Yes, he's one of the greatest offensive guys, but he does understand how to play the game in the defensive zone. And he's just challenged Bouchard. And Bouchard says, man, when Paul Coffey's sitting there and telling you can do something and showing you videos of what you can do, you're like, oh, God, I guess I can do it. And so I really think Paul Coffey gets a lot of credit, and Chris Knobloch, because some head coaches, guys, don't necessarily want to really empower their position coaches. And he did with Coffey, he did with Stewart on the PK, and he did with Glenn Gulletson, obviously not touching anything on the power play.
So when you look at, sort of tiers of talented players, it's obviously crucial to have guys behind the best guys. RNH, 16 points in 12 games. I think Hyman's above a point per game too. Those guys coming through maybe makes the difference. Were you impressed with those guys' ability to continue to produce even when maybe McDavid or Draisaitl pulled back a bit?
Well, Zach Hyman's been good all year. He's got 11 goals to lead the playoffs, right? He's excellent around the crease. He had 54 goals in the regular season. Nugent Hopkins, I really thought he came on in the last few games of this series. Historically, he hasn't been a really productive player 5-on-5 in the regular season, and really not in the postseason outside of 2022, right, where he had 5 goals 5-on-5. But he came alive here late, and they really needed him. He scored 2 huge goals here in the last 2 games, both 5-on-5, and I think that's massive for them. Now, Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, and McDavid, they've been aligned for the majority of the year. They did get away from it for a bit, but I think they're better that way. And Dylan Holloway's emergence allowed them to go Kane and Draisaitl together with him. And now they got their set top 6, and I wouldn't change it at all against Dallas. Now they give Draisaitl, McDavid, and Hyman that first shift after a Dallas power play all the time, which I'm fine with. But I would leave Nugent Hopkins there. They needed him to go to the net, guys, more. And he did that specifically in game 6 to score from around the crease. Hyman lives there. But, yeah, those depth guys are good. Kane scored 2 goals in game 5 and 6. Dylan Holloway scored maybe the best goal for the Oilers in the playoffs in game 6. So their depth guys did, I guess their second-tier depth guys did step up here in the final 2 games when they needed them to win the series.
Jason, Vancouver, obviously, disappointment, the fans, but there's a sense that they won their fans over. There's plenty to look forward to, the build, the excitement. Where would the Edmonton fans be at this point going through a series with Dallas, where probably not favored, maybe. I'm not sure where it stands, but like, is this from here on in for Edmonton fans, cup or bust here? Or is there a sense that getting close is still okay?
Yeah, I would guess most fans are like, no, like, let's go. Right now, Leon Draisaitl said cup or bust, and then he was kind of like, hey, maybe that was a little bit too much. But I think they, like, if the Oilers get swept in the conference final, guys, they'll be like, well, what the hell's the point? If you lose in overtime of Game 7, maybe it's a little bit, all right, we're competitive and we'll see what happens. But no, I think they look at their team, and they were the best regular season team since Chris Knobloch took over. They had the most points. They were second in goals. They were top 5 in goals against. They were top 5 in penalty kill. They're top 5 in power play. There's really no reason for them, as good as Dallas is, Edmonton should go in there and say, hey, we should be able to compete. That's why they went out and got these guys. Now, Adam Henrique, I think, it could be a wild card in this series. I don't think he's going to be ready for Game 1, guy, but if he's ready for Game 2, 3, or 4, that adds some depth to them, because their third line has really done nothing offensively in this series. And with Dylan Holloway's emergence, you could move him there, and maybe that jump starts some things. Their fourth line's actually been more productive than their third line. So I think there is a lot of expectations inside the organization and amongst the fan base, and I think it's fair, right? Like, they played that well for this long. And I know that doesn't guarantee you success in the postseason, but they've had some learning, right? They went to the conference final, got beat by a very good Colorado team. Then they lost to Vegas last year. So they've been a good team. Like, there's no more, well, we have to learn. It doesn't mean you'll win, but I don't think the Oilers, like the McLeod goal, the Stuart Skinner goals, those glaring gift goals, they just can't happen in the conference final, I think. And so that's what I'm going to be watching for, because I think if Edmonton can play a mature game, guys, they're right there, and this should be a hell of a series, right? Rupe Hintz is injury is something that I think is a big storyline for Dallas heading into this series. But we'll see how they can do it. And it's funny because Edmonton, if you look at all their numbers, they're actually way better defensively than people think. The problem is they make those glaring errors. So I guess maybe that's why they're not that good, because they still make them. But overall, if you look at shot suppression, shots on goal, scoring chances, they don't give up a lot. Their goals against should be better if they just get decent goaltending.
Well, we'll move from what could happen, what should happen. What do you think will happen? Do you feel comfortable making a prediction yet, or have you not run all your proper analysis?
You know what? I actually had both of these teams at the start of the playoffs in the Western Conference Finals. So I'll go with the team I thought at the start of the playoffs, which was Edmonton. And so I said Edmonton in 7, and so I'll kind of stick with that. McDavid, like, when your best players are that good, it just gives you such an advantage. And I'm very excited to see Miro Heiskanen, and Bouchard, because I'm not saying he's a better player, but in the series, Bouchard was infinitely better than Quinn Hughes. And now Bouchard and Heiskanen, both guys got 5 goals, right? Like, that's the storyline to watch. Yeah. Young Wyatt Johnson, oh my goodness, what a player that guy's become for the Dallas Stars. Their amateur scout management getting a massive raise with Stan Coven and all those guys. You kidding me? Like, look at their drafting in Dallas. It's amazing here the last 6 years. It's stunning how good it is. So I think it's going to be a great series. It really comes down to, can Stuart Skinner just be consistent? I don't think he has to be great. He just has to be consistent.
Great storylines going into this one. Jason, terrific stuff, man. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, boys, have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Jason.
Jason Gregor, Sports 1440 in Edmonton, and it's the Jason Gregor Show.
It's going to be a good series, boys.
That is.
Yeah. There's a lot of history between these two teams. There was, like, my youth. They used to play in the first round every year, and they would be like the closest sweeps ever. I remember, like, every game would go to OT, and Dallas would win every time, and they get swept all the time.
Yeah.
I know we're going to go to game time. But, very disappointing game, watching it from a Vancouver Canuck perspective for at least 40 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
but they can't generate.
They couldn't get anything going, and the power play sunk them. It was like,
that 4-minute power play was devastating.
Did they call Guy Boucher and say, hey, can you give us some pointers here? Like, what was that?
That Game 7, boys. I've watched that Game 7 a lot of times. It just felt so leafy. And I'm sorry to my Canuck fans. It's in the second round, so it's not leafy because it was in the second round, but just the inability to even get in the zone or create like zone time or have chances. Like they could not get to the middle of the ice.
It is devastating. Part of, there is luck involved, and the Leafs obviously didn't have their guys. But, to not have Besser and Demko in that game, like Sheloves is not to blame. That's not why they didn't win the game.
He started out with like a ridiculous save.
5 or 6 nothing.
He was great
without him.
But a couple of shots from the point get through. He seems to struggle seeing through screens right now, and maybe he'll find that. But
before we move on, one thing happened Saturday night, Game 6. I want to ask you guys about. And the guys on Hockey Night in Canada pointed it out, and it was JT Miller just giving it to Dakota Joshua on the ice. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
And I know the guys liked it a lot, but I did not like it at all. And I just wanted to get your thoughts.
What didn't you like about it?
What did I not like about it? I didn't like a guy chewing out a teammate in front of 18,000 fans and millions watching. That's what I didn't like about it.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I typically think that it's okay to be upset and time and place and all that, but that didn't feel quite on to me.
Yeah, and you know how I feel about JT
You
Miller.
love Miller. You're a Miller
and
guy.
I didn't like him for a very long time because I heard stories like that.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that JT Miller was wrong in maybe the message that he was trying to get across to Dakota, whether it's, hey, get a puck in deep. We can't turn it over there. That's a critical time. That's a critical moment. Whatever the message he needed or wanted to send, I think there's a million ways you can say the same thing to him without embarrassing him in that instance.
Well, I mean, a guy like him also deserves a lot of credit for the way that he pushes his teammates to get them where they got. So, I can see the good and the bad of it.
It's not that it is a big deal, but it's he's made so many strides in being a great leader and a teammate. But there are players that I've played with that were in that similar situation to JT Miller. They would never do that.
Yeah.
They would never never belittle a guy like that in front of everybody. It would be done
in the room. But at that moment, there's the same way to get the same message across, but with building blocks, not with stripping a guy down.
Yeah.
And it's clearly a cumulative.
Cumulative has been a tough word.
Cumulative. Oh, Jesus. Because it wasn't the play that happened wasn't like super egregious. Like the puck kind of came out and he was the guy made a good play with his glove. But I think when you live by the sword, die by the sword with JT Miller, where he's just a complete hothead, you're going to have to deal with that kind of thing.
You're absolutely right that it wasn't a critical play, but what it projects is the level of frustration that you're having and the lack of success that you're having.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that and I listened to the guys and, they had their takes, Kevin Bieksa had his take as well as Luke had his take that, there's reasons why they liked it. I said to myself, that tells me that things are kind of derailing a little bit, bubbling. Mm-hmm. And if I'm an Edmonton Oiler guy and I'm watching that go on, I go, boys, we got him.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. My junior coach was so good with the whole never let him see a sweat thing. We're not slamming doors. We're not, we can still hold each other accountable without that sort of stuff where the other team goes, oh, they're reeling.
Yeah. And they were reeling because
they were reeling.
Like even they tied that game early in Game 6 and it was Hoglander scored that goal and Pettersson had a little bit of jump. But it just felt that like you guys both picked Edmonton. Yeah. I picked Vancouver. I thought Vancouver had a little bit more gumption than Edmonton did.
They make it close, man.
And I honestly give Tocchet a ton of credit because them coming back in the third period yesterday, like they were getting beat like a drum for 52 minutes of that game. And the fact that they even had that push at all when they're down 3, it's like, give credit. Tocchet must just have tore a strip on.
He won Jack Adams, right?
Yeah. Did he win that?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, good for him.
Pretty sure that was announced over the weekend.
Congratulations to him.
I mean, well earned. The Canucks were saying themselves, everything has to go right for us to make playoffs, and they're, a goal away in Game 7 of the second round from seeing the conference final.
And
so
hell
of a performance.
That puck doesn't hit Zadorov at the end of the game there. It's like maybe they got Game 7 overtime, different story. But anyways, they couldn't hold on any longer.
Good season for the Canucks.
Absolutely. Game time?
Game time.
All right, it's game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So, Kyper, you were asking our good friend Jason Gregor who would be a favorite in that series. And the Edmonton Oilers are plus 110 in that series. So they're a bit of an underdog going up against the Dallas Stars. It's minus 130. And on the other side of it, the Florida Panthers are minus 150 favorites against the New York Rangers, plus 125.
What?
Yeah. I will say, looking at these lines, this is an awesome Final Four. And if you were going to decide, if these are probably the 4 best teams in the league. There's no real fluke of anybody getting in
3
there.
of them won their division, and the Oilers stumbled out of the
Nobody's
gate.
getting in the side door here. They all broke down the front door.
They were good start to finish, these 4. Well, sorry, the Oilers being the exception again there.
So,
15
slow.
games.
Yeah.
So 2 pretty tight series there, and Edmonton's underdog, which would probably be good for them. And just checking in on my favorite time to check in on, the Conn Smythe Trophy race here. Jake Ottinger is the favorite at plus 500.
The favorite. So they think Dallas is going to win the cup.
Dallas is the favorite according to Bet365 to win the cup. And if they think that, the goalie
if he shows up, it's going to be hard for the Oilers. But
Gregor brings up a great point about Dallas' D.
I'm not pleased with his consistency.
I think the biggest concern for Dallas is, can Chris Tanev play enough games? He took a licking in round 2.
How about him getting hit in the mouth?
He's got no teeth. He didn't lose his gums. It's just going to be a nose and a chin.
I was just praying that they were going to get put out so that he's not half of a man when the Leafs sign him in the offseason. But he's just taking
for half the salary.
Oh, 3's half of 8. And so I'm just looking down the list here at the Conn Smythe guys. 2 that I kind of like are Oilers. Evan Bouchard, 25-1. If he keeps ripping into the net at this pace, I know probably McDavid if they are going to win, but narrative, he's been good, so I don't mind that. And Zach Hyman, 50-1 to win the Conn Smythe. So if he keeps firing in the net, I think he leads the goal. Does he lead the playoff in goals? I think he does. So he's had a really good, probably be a lot because of McDavid, so it'll be a tough one, but it's a long shot at 50-1, and maybe the writers like the narrative and they want to stick it to the Leafs. If there's anything that could make Leaf fans heartbroken, it's literally a Zach Hyman Conn Smythe. So there's a couple long shots I like. A lot of goalies up there in the superstars, as you would expect. So that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app's latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
All right. We'll take a quick break. Yeah. We come back. Maybe we'll throw in a Rick Tocchet clip.
Yeah.
Jack Adams Award winner. And then we'll track down the new head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Craig Berube. That and more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. All right, we're back. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sam McKee. So, all said and done for the Vancouver Canucks. Just so weird. Just these injuries that guys I don't remember it in my era where it's 1 second it's he's not playing.
Yeah, you guys had bad medicine, so they didn't know, and they just trotted you out there.
A blood clot. What are the odds?
I know. It's brutal. Just brutal timing. It reminded me of the Joseph Woll back, where you're here we go, big Game 7. They're actually, you don't have one of your best players. And you watch that 4-minute power play, and it was just...
I'm it can't be true.
And so Tocchet loads up the D. I think they had 4 D over the 2 power play units, 2 in each unit, and they still gave up a mile-long Connor Brown breakaway. By the way, Brown had a couple breaks. He's an offensive guy. He had 120 points in the O, I think. There's the worst attempt. Connor, man, love you, but my God, was that an awful breakaway attempt.
Quick chest.
Jeez Louise.
So, when it's all said and done, what do you make of Pettersson with 1 goal in 13 games and 7 points?
I thought he tried his ass off the last game or 2. I thought Game 7 he ran into people, he skated.
So
good for him.
Is it still in that Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares? You're paid $12-13 million. We don't care. You got to produce.
I believe that is, you have held them to that account, right? I do care, if you're still playing and you're effective, and I thought he had the back heel. And
I feel for these, great, you're rich.
Yeah.
But this is the way it's going to be moving forward here
Well,
for all of you.
yeah.
All of you. Like, you don't produce, you are going to get crapped on beyond belief.
But Kip, it's never been a free pass for superstars to underperform in the playoffs.
No, it's worse now.
I'm sure.
It's worse now.
Yeah.
I don't want to say this too loud for the Vancouver people to hear, but Pettersson was worse than Marner has been.
Yeah.
I think. Don't you?
It's just, listen, I'll go back to, it's really hard out there.
Oh, yeah.
5-on-5. And if your power play goes south or you got an average goalie, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. And you will take the heat.
But it's way harder for the Stars for sure. But, you know, you look at the guys who get through, and every year, McDavid and Draisaitl have a zillion points in the playoffs, and every year McKinnon has a bunch of points, and it's a different type of player that has success in the playoffs, maybe. And so maybe Pettersson and Marner and the more perimeter type guys, maybe they shouldn't make as much money. Maybe they're not on the level of these guys who are bullies. And
no one's saying no.
I have no idea.
No one's saying no. I'm not blaming the player, but if I'm the teams, I'm having second thoughts about that guy's.
But you're not getting him if you have second thoughts. You're not getting him.
Well,
it's going somewhere else.
Buddy, the Leafs could have had Marner for less than they gave him. Mikko Rantanen got 9.5 after Marner.
But Marner ended up being paid right where he was supposed to get paid.
Right, but that doesn't mean he got paid what they should have paid him.
Well, Matthews shouldn't have gotten past Eichel in Buffalo. There's no reason why he should have been $2 million more than Eichel
You
at
talked
$10
about
million.
team jealousy in our first block, and that's what this is. He got that.
I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's the cycle. And no matter what, hey, good way to finish your check, Petey. But no one cares.
Did he
You
have?
tried
I
hard.
literally just said I
You
cared.
tried hard. No one cares. They're gonna run you out of the building. They're gonna run you out for not producing.
He has another way to play Petey, right? Like he can run into people and he can do, that physical edge.
But
I thought he tried the last
at 12 million, 13 million, these guys, it's like
for sure it's short of
produce
expectations.
or you got to just suck it up.
Yeah.
Did they I watched all their games closely. Like I don't remember how many slot chances did Pettersson have?
No,
like, it felt
he
like he never, like even when he scored his goal, it was off like the sideboards where he just kind of shot into an empty net.
Every blocked shot was at the middle. Like Vancouver couldn't get anything to the net.
Do you know
in the
how
first
many
40 minutes?
of
It
their
was
shots?
Crazy.
Megan Chayka had a shot or a stat that the Canucks got 22% of their shots through in Game 7. 22%. So they attempted whatever 60.
Oh,
What's the math on that? 15 get through. Like
never got through to the net.
No.
Yeah. So that's perimeter. That's good D, protecting the house by Edmonton and all that. But I think it's becoming clearer that you need players who can get through there. Zach Hyman has 11 goals. Nichushkin had all the goals he had. Where are those guys getting the goals? It's not a mystery.
Hyman's skating, man. He's gotten faster too, like just powerful. He drops that shoulder. It's like that's how you score in the playoffs. You have big, fast guys that go to the middle of the ice.
All right, let's go to Rick Tocchet on how he feels overall about his team.
Yeah, I mean, there's no quit in this team. Obviously, the third period, there's parts of the second. I thought there was no quit. Really proud of the guys. Unreal. Millsy that shot gets through Z. That's in the net. I mean, that would have been unreal. But made a huge push there. Really proud.
So I listened to this whole press conference and would not do any criticism. Like it was just fully basically him being like, I'm proud, I'm proud, I'm proud.
Yeah. Wow. This is just because of where they came from. What did they miss the playoffs last year by? 12 points?
Yeah, a lot.
It wasn't close.
Can you play the second clip for us quickly there, Derek? That second Tocchet clip? Okay. He's got the coach of the Leafs on the line, so he can't put the clip.
Okay.
Yeah. So
good reason.
Berube's calling in here, I think. I don't know if he's ready yet, but he would just called in. So that's why he's not ready yet. So
okay.
We don't have a clip and our guy's talking to him on the phone. So
all right.
Carry on. Kyper?
We will momentarily be joined.
There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna get Berube as soon as he's ready. But in the meantime, house money. They were playing all season long with house money, Vancouver. And this time next year, you lose in the first round, either in Game 7 or in overtime. People are going to be disappointed.
I'm curious to know what expectations are for the Canucks because I won't be going into it saying that's a 109-point team. All right.
Here you go.
Okay, let's welcome him in. 32nd head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs in their history, Craig Berube. Hey, Craig, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
Guys, good. Thanks for having me on. I'm doing well.
Listen, we caught your press conference today. Your answers were too short for us. We run a 2-hour show every day, and you're going to have to beef it up, man. Don't do that to us.
Well, it's early. Give me some time.
How's the overall vibe for you? Again, from Friday, we assume that you agreed to a contract on Friday, and since then, it sounds like you've been rather busy.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Yeah, no, you're obviously busy, and you know, people and phone calls and things like that, and you know, just your family, and then came out to Toronto here, and it's been great, first class. You know, as you guys know, the organization's all first class. People have been great, just really kind of getting the lay of the land, and you know, meeting a lot of new faces, and so it's been really good. Yeah, I mean, I'm loving every minute of it.
Well, that's awesome. And obviously there's a lot to do. As you mentioned, you know, you're finding places and getting to know people. At some point, things will slow down for you and you'll be able to get into the hockey side of things. So what will the process look like? How will you go about evaluating last year's Leafs and deciding what changes to make going into next season?
Yeah, well, those are conversations I'm going to have with Brad for sure here going forward about the team and, you know, just some of the changes that they made last year a little bit, and even towards the end of the year going into the playoffs. And, you know, and then, you know, we'll get that all settled in and figure things out. And same with the coaching staff. And, you know, we'll go from there and see where we're at. And then, you know, we'll, you know, again, I've already reached out to a lot of players. I think that's important to really get these relationships going and get to know these guys. You know, there's a few here today at the rink that I met. So, you know, it's just things like that I think are really important here.
We're talking to Craig Berube, head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know you mentioned that you've spoken to the majority of the players. That included Mitch Marner. What was the overall vibe when you talked to a guy of his stature with his future so much up in the air, Craig?
It was great. Very positive. You know, he was really excited. I'm really excited. Again, you know, all that stuff will be evaluated with Brad, and, you know, we'll go forward from there. But listen, the conversation was great with him. Listen, he's a great player. We all know that. Like I said, it was very positive on both sides.
So the early season for the Leafs in the past has not been awesome. They typically kind of struggled out of the gate and as a result end up kind of finishing second, third, and never drawing a favorable first-round matchup. How early is too early, do you feel, to be holding guys accountable and leaning on players, kind of putting that pressure on that the regular season really does matter?
Well, I think that, you know, they know the regular season matters. We all know that. And you always want to get off to a good start, and that's important. I think that starts, you know, in the summertime with your training and all the things you got to do and get prepared. And then having a real good camp's important. And, you know, that's the plan now, to have a real good hard camp and get ready for the start of the season. I think how we run camp and with our practices, though the practices are the most important thing, not the exhibition games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want to practice how we're going to play. We want to be really, you know, dialed in there, predictable with structure and how we're going to play. And I think that's going to be a big part of getting off to a good start.
Not to jump right through training camp or maybe the first 70 games of the regular season here, Craig, but there was a huge story towards the latter part of this season with the chase of Austin Matthews and 70 goals and just the overall thought about load management and, you know, relying on 2 or 3 of the core players all season long. Where do you stand on that sort of thing? On you know, how much do you lean towards your top players, you know, from beginning to end of a regular season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I talked a little bit about it today with, you know, it's all about the team for me, and I think every player is important on your team, and he's got to have a role. And, you know, it's important for me as the coach to use all these guys and, manage minutes and ice time and things like that. I think, you're going to have to use your top guys more at times, obviously, when in games when you're down and certain things like that. It's all stuff that it's all a little bit hypothetical right now. It's game to game. But again, I want to use everybody on the team. I really believe that, if you want to ever get something done in the end, you need everybody. Everybody's got to feel important. Everybody's got to have a role.
Craig, over the years, I know that Dubas was a big analytics guy. I think you got about 43 R&D guys on staff and a bunch of different positions. You got a lot of staff there. How do you plan on approaching what I imagine is access to more information, or at least a fire hose of information that's going to be coming your way at some point?
Yeah, analytics have been around for quite some time now. We all use them.
Yeah.
They're all useful tools. I think, as every coach is different of what he wants to use. You get loads of information, but, as a head coach and the coaching staff, you go through that stuff and you figure out what you think is more important than the other stuff, and you use it. And, like I have my own stuff that I like to use. So, but again, it's all good information. I don't think you can ever just throw information out and not look at it. I think it's important to look at it and use what you want to use. But in the end, I'm a gut guy. I go off a lot of feel things and what I see as a coach.
Craig, we're reminded during the playoffs what specialty teams mean this time of year. It's been ugly for the Leafs over the last few years in the latter part of a regular season or in their first or second round. Where are you on your power play, and how heavily involved are you on a power play? How much will you rely on whoever's there for you on your staff to be in charge of a power play?
Well, the way I work with my coaching staff is we're all involved in all these situations. That's what I believe is the most important thing. I don't think, sure, one guy's area is a power play and penalty kill and things like that. And, they're heavily involved in that area, but I'm involved. The other coaches are involved. I think opinions are good. And that's kind of how I work through these things because, the penalty kill guy might have some good opinions on the power play. He's running a penalty kill. He knows what penalty killers are doing. So we all work together on all these things and come up with the best plan.
Makes a lot of sense. Wanted to get your thought, just a general sort of thing, and not maybe specific to the Leafs, but obviously we can sort of translate that a little bit. What does leadership mean to you on an NHL team?
Well, first of all good leaders are good teammates. Leadership is not just leading by example on the ice, but leadership is taking care of your teammates and helping them in tough situations, holding them accountable at times. For me, that's leadership. You take care of your teammates, you look after your teammates. That's really important. That's what I think leadership is.
Craig, we assume it may be a busy off season. Do you plan on being involved with decision making on player personnel, or as a coach, do you just work with what's given to you?
Well, no, I'm just talking with Brad. We're both going to talk and be involved in these situations. But in the end, he's the general manager and I'm the coach. And, his management team will make decisions. I'm so far talking with Brad, he's asked me about things. And I would guess I would continue to work that way.
How quickly do you think you're going to get sick of the media environment here, Craig? Are you there now?
Yeah, no. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. Yeah, it's more here in Toronto, and rightly so. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs, so it's part of the job. And I understood that coming in here, and I'm signing here with Toronto. So that's part of my job.
So if Brendan Shanahan comes into your coach's office with all these thoughts and ideas on what you should do or say, do you just show him the video of you kicking his ass?
I don't know if I kicked his ass, but I mean,
you did. It's okay.
Well, listen, it's
You got a lot more goals than I ever scored, Kipper.
yeah, me and you both, my friend. Me and you both. Well, listen, officially welcome to Toronto. Keep them coming, those Kippers Clippers for us, and we're looking forward to next season. Thanks for doing this, Craig.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Thanks.
32nd head coach in Maple Leaf history, Craig Berube. Hey, a lot longer answers with us than we saw this morning.
Yeah.
I didn't think I had like the perfect length answer. You know, I've been doing a lot of radio.
We can
work with it.
I've been working in radio for a long time now, and there's a very like perfect length of answer, and he kind of gave him there. It's kind of the perfect length.
I think what's really going to help him too is like he's experienced it as a player here.
Yeah.
Right. He is an alumni. He's got little blue and white in his blood.
I also don't think that there's anything that the media can do or say that's going to change his opinion of himself or his hockey team, which is a really strong place of like confidence to come at it from. Whereas I don't know that that was the case with a first-time head coach or with people who maybe a little more sensitive than Craig, who does not seem like an overly sensitive guy.
Let me ask it to you this way.
Yes.
Do you think if there was a documentary on the Toronto Maple Leafs, do you think Craig Berube would bust into the general manager's office and say, "We're getting killed in the narrative"? Do you think he would say that?
I think he might have said, I think he would have gone on the ice and said, "Freddie, can you play?
Are you playing?
Yeah.
Hey, play? I don't know. I got to tell you, boys, I love that.
I can't wait for that a new documentary with him.
Is there not one happening?
I don't know, but
I thought there was.
There's a drop on this show that we play a lot. Like, I might be back. I
What do you mean?
I might be back into loving the Leafs again.
Yes.
I might be back.
We're like 10 days from the end of the season, and Sammy.
I'm back. Yeah, there it is. I might be back. I don't know. I loved that interview.
Yeah.
Good. You're not going to find anyone that's followed this storyline that would not think today that he is not the perfect guy right now for here and now.
Yeah. I am curious to know what happens to the staff, like the volume of staff for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The whatever's 10
Like
guys.
who?
The 10 guys they have in analytics. You know, he literally said the words. I'm more of a gut guy, which is fine. He has things he uses.
You can hire 100 guys. They're gonna use what they want to use.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to pay them out of his salary, so he doesn't care if they're around.
Give me the report and
just give me whatever you want and walk out.
Yeah.
And, you know,
you're right.
It's like there's so many coaches that get pages of that in between periods, and they wouldn't line the birdcage with it.
You're not wrong.
Once in a while, Kipper, you have a thing that gets me. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wouldn't line the birdcage.
You know, and I know that no coach is going to say, I don't need numbers anymore. You know, and he was pretty good about, I think, walking that line. They're going to be fun to follow along with.
There's nothing right now between him and Brad Treliving that looks like they're going to let the numbers dictate decisions.
A little scary for me.
I will say, before we go, heartbreaking time of year. No hockey tonight, boys.
Is it the first night?
Yeah.
No, one other night.
Yeah.
Already.
No hockey tonight. Second round, one game a night. I missed the first round already.
Baseball starts up tonight.
Zigzags, big game for the Zigzags tonight. So
Are the Jays back? Are you back on the Jays?
No, they stink.
They stink still?
I went and saw Manoah dealing on Sunday.
I mean, we'll let Blair and Barker, who's coming in after us, do all the talking. But
Chicago stinks too, right?
Oh, they reek. They're the worst team in the league by far, yeah.
It was the Rays I saw them beat.
Hey, that was good. Manoah looked good. He did.
10 miles.
All right.
All right.
Encouraging signs.
Our final 2-hour show of the season just finished, and we've solved nothing.
Until Marner gets traded for Saros, and we'll be back on for now.
See you then.
All right. Our thanks to Craig Berube, Jason Gregor as well. We're back tomorrow from 3 to 4.
One Canadian team, go Oilers.
Eastern. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you get a chance, give us a rating and a review. We'd love to get your feedback on The Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Have a great night, everybody.